So ultimately, the friendship cannot ever be the goal, right? As soon as the friendship becomes the goal, that you've lost what you were trying to attain. Like you is that vapor, like that's never what it's about. Yeah. So as much as we want friends and friendship wants to be, we want friendship as a goal, it can't ever be the goal to actually attain it.
Welcome to the Simplified Organization podcast, 15-minute conversations with real moms about managing our homes and family life cheerfully to the glory of God. We can actually enjoy housework and love being homemakers when we focus on truth and work with gratitude. I'm Mystie Winckler, homemaker, homeschooler, and author of the book Simplified Organization, Learn to Love What Must Be Done. I write and podcast at simplyconvivial.com, and I run Convivial Circle, a community helping women to excel at homemaking and do life cheerfully. And today I have the fourth and final part of our book club conversation with Karen Head, Kate Myers, and Adelaide Gardner from inside Convivial Circle. We're discussing four loves and what C.S. Lewis has to say about friendships. So grab a basket of laundry to fold and let's dig in.
So changing directions on the conversation, I thought this was interesting where he was talking about, hitting the feminism piece when women started trying to include themselves in the men's clubs, and like the women were bored with the men's conversations because they weren't a part of it, and then the men couldn't continue having the conversations. And like I think we've all been that way, like when we've been in a situation like the club is meeting and we've got our ideas and they're talking, and somebody thinks that they're going to just bounce in, and then they realize they have nothing in common with what the discussion is. And then you can't continue to have the conversation because it's rude to the person that's not educated on that topic, and it just all falls apart. And like how women, because I want to be, well, if the men can do it, we can do it. And he said, and of course, these are silly women, the sensible women who, if they wanted, would certainly be able to qualify themselves for the world of discussion and ideas, are precisely those who, if they are not qualified, never try to enter or destroy it. Like there is wisdom of knowing when to join a conversation or when to join a group. You don't want to just crash the party for crashing the party's sake. And it's not like we get this idea that they're all together and so let's all talk about the same thing. Again, if there's not the bond there, you're going to miss up on things. And just how feminine we got that the feminist put in, we can smoke and we can go drink beer at the club too, and so we should do that. And then the men are like, now what do we have? We don't have anything left. And that we need to allow our men to have these sorts of conversations and not intrude on them, just the same way that women need to have conversations and that are not, men are not included in. And it's not wrong. And it's not that you can't have groups where men and women are friends and having intellectual conversations, but everybody has to know that they're on that same page or that same level in order to enter into the conversation.
And that's where you get women as the salonier, the ladies that ran the salons, that brought the right people together to correctly. It was like the best drink mixing. Like you bring the right people together, the right personalities, and you create beautiful conversations. And that is a gift of womanhood.
But a part of it is they brought it together, but weren't interfering.
Yeah, they weren't interfering. But you get a picture of it in the first chapter of War and Peace, where she has a salon. You don't often get that like literary portrayal of what a salon would be, but like that little, because it comes back to that salon a couple times through the book. But like anytime you can get a glimpse of what like a literary gathering would be with people in mixed company, like it's fascinating. I need more of them. All of the places.
Yeah, that's where he brought those up kind of. I thought of those spots when he said every civilized religion began in a small group of friends.
And like he also said that about math, right? Greek mathematics pursued by friends as a leisure occupation have mattered to us more. So if we're pursuing math as leisure and friendship, we'll do better.
That makes me think too, kind of coming back to the mission of there's just a power in and a richness in friendships where you're learning together. My closest, best friendships are with ladies that I'm reading with, or think about how just the power of friendships at a healthy church where you're all growing together and being taught together and the posture of learning together, I think that adds a depth to a friendship. And I think helps with the self-differentiation, that it's not just about you, it's about what you're doing together and stuff.
But that's like,
that comes back to like what George Grant was saying in Shelf Life, because I just listened to that last night. And that idea is repentance. Like doing a book club or doing a study is that there actually is that piece of when we're all trying to learn, there is also a posture of humility of knowing that we don't know. And that's what I'm learning. But knowing how to come at things with the right questions and with thoughtful questions. And that is not about always having the answer to it, but it's asking the questions and then learning. And that the education piece is the repentance and the learning.
Can we circle back to the women intruding on the men? I just underlined that there are women who regard the group of men with hatred, envy, and fear as the enemy of Eros, and perhaps even more of affection. But she doesn't realize that the husband whom she succeeds in isolating from his own kind will not be very well worth having. She's emasculated him. And I think that is a very common occurrence.
What's funny is that, like, I know you haven't read the whole book, but if you go back to the arrow, he talks about that women often want to take the crown, the pagan or the Christian crown, from the husband, but women don't realize that the pagan crown is of paper and the Christian crown is of thorns, and men would rather usurp it to them. And like, all this picture he has is accurate. Like there is this tendency towards, if I can just fix it, if I can just push this all away and have him all to myself and fix all the problems, that he'll be mine more, but he's actually yours less. And
if there is too much of the focus only on each other, then there isn't that self-differentiation there too. And I think even in our marriages, when we do have healthy friendships and A is bringing out things in C that B can't bring out, and things like that, I think there are things that are being brought out in our husband and in ourselves and refining in us and our husbands that make us able to be in better relationship with each other.
And if you go to, and Lewis would have gone to Dante, so I'm going to Dante. And if you go to and he finally sees Beatrice, he meets her in the garden at the top of Purgatorio. They carry on into the spheres of heaven. It's beautiful. And then you hit the point where she's seeing the prima mobile, the center point. It says that, and she looked and she smiled and not at me. And that is the point that we are all striving for. It's not that our husbands look at us for final delight. Like that goal of Eros is nasty and twisted. We're not looking for our friends to look at us with that full delight. We want them to turn away from us and to smile and nod at us.
Yeah, we can't be the object of one another's affection.
Not at all. And that was also his solution for grief.
Or with our husbands.
Yeah. So when Lewis said that he was losing someone, when he lost joy, when he was writing to a friend who lost his wife, he said, we can take this comfort that they're looking on the one who is comfort and not at us. And it's the same thing. It's the goal of friendship. It's the gift at the end of marriage. And it's the hope that we take when we lose ones we love.
So ultimately the friendship cannot ever be the goal, right? As soon as the friendship becomes the goal, that you've lost what you were trying to attain. Like is that vapor of like, that's never what it's about. Yeah. So as much as we want friends and friendship wants to be, we want friendship as a goal, it can't ever be the goal to actually attain it.
But you still have to like hanging out with each other. Yeah.
Or tolerate each other.
In the Inklings, there was also Owen Barfield, who wrote great things too, but C.S. Lewis and Owen Barfield knew that every time they got together, they were fighting. And everybody knew it. And it came down to be called the Great War. And they called their relationship the Great War. And it was such a piece of their life that they like wrote letters to each other. These letters became a book. Each of them would hand, like, And they counted on this conflict. They counted on it, and it made them, I think Lewis said that he wouldn't have been the apologist that he was had he not been fighting with Owen Barfield his entire life. And Owen Barfield's daughter, Lucy, is who The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is dedicated to.
Okay.
So this was conflict and rivalry at its very best. It was like the core of their friendship. It was a delight and a love. It was something that was iron sharpening iron in a very real way. I think that one of the chapters in Bandersnatch is, I've got a good mind to punch you in the head, like a very masculine conflict. And so we can have these conflicts in our friendships without the friendship being risked at all. And so sometimes we think that like we've said, we don't have to agree, but I don't think we understand the level to which we can disagree and still be perfectly fine friends with each other and have loyalty between each other. And it's because we can shove and because we can say, yeah, this is probably going to make you cry. However, if I don't make you cry, you won't be better for it. And someone else will. And I don't want you crying in front of someone else.
When we're not the object of one another's affection, then there's nothing that's at risk when you kind of shove the object around or when you shove each other around a little bit. And I will never forget when I heard someone say that when iron sharpens iron, there are sparks that fly.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I already said this, but like once I gained friends who wanted rebuke and was willing to receive that from them, just the depth of your friendship and the joy of the friendship.
Oh, yeah.
My friendships are so much lighter. And of course, because it's able to be healthy, there's the humor that's able to be there with ladies who could make me cry versus always trying to make sure you don't offend
or that you don't
that they don't offend
a relationship where someone might make you cry. Like if you meet someone and you share ideas and you have this feeling and then you hear them say something that you're like, I don't think I can be friends with you because that kind of like stung a bit. And like realizing that, no, this person is so much, it's not that, like it's the bleeding charity again, probably. Like, and they might
being willing to be
polished off too.
You know, like there's some people that'll say that they want to have the iron sharpening iron and somebody to push, but as soon as it does, then they're like, I don't want that. Like you're being mean or that sort of thing. Like it reminds me of in Friedman's Fables where he's talking about stepping on the emotions and on the ganglia that's coming out, that some like what actually is the friendship is stepping on the toes sometimes. And that I think it's when we start having expectations of what we want the other person to give us or what we give, we expect it to be reciprocated in the exact same way of like, I had everybody over for a book club. And so, but they've never invited me over for a book club. So that can't be, then we must not be friends. That I think there's a lot of lies that come into that erode when we start expecting it to come back in a certain way towards us, or we want, rather than just having the other person, the other friend be who they are, we try to start molding them into who we want them to be. And that's where then it devolves again because of that. And I think that's where I have a hard time, like in person sometimes, like I'm willing to be I am more concerned about the truth and I'll rub somebody the wrong way because it's right and true. And then it's not received. And then I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. Right. And there is a place for compassion. Again, I think it's some of that. We have such a twisted view of compassion versus empathy, that the compassion is the willing to do the hard, speak the hard truth, speak the hard things because that's what's needed and right and good. And most want empathy and just to be having their feelings affirmed, having the affirmation. Like friendship should be just about affirmation, and it's not. I mean, there is a place for affirmation of like, no, you've got this, you're doing this, keep doing the good work. But there's also a place for, you're not giving the affirmation just to appease, you're giving affirmation because it's right and good at the time versus
he's saying that you should lean into that because sometimes as moms too, we don't want to give that affirmation because it might be wrong, or it might like do something weird if you encourage a child or something. So we need to lean into the affirmation. And if we practice that with friends, can see when we're doing it right, friends can see when we're doing it wrong, and we can learn to do it better. And so as a pricklier person, having friends that can say, no, you're being prickly here.
I think this is where we are so blessed to be exposed to classical education, because the expectation is that dialectic conversation. And so that is something that we are kind of showing up knowing is going to, or hoping is going to take place, because we know that is what is moving us forward. And I'm going to give a plug for, I would say, both Convivial Circle and in the Scully Sisters Circle group. It's a great place, I think, to practice that with one another. I think all of the moderators do a wonderful job of, I think, also setting that expectation. I've never really seen it get ugly between ladies. I think there's there's so much great conversation where we're disagreeing with each other. But there's the posture of humility, because we're all wanting to learn, and it's not personal. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably easier for some people to not take things personally too. I know that I'm supposedly an F, but like, I don't take things personally either. But I think you have to learn to become unoffendable, because that's what Christ is calling us to also. Yes, the imperviousness. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Karen, Adelaide, and Kate became friends inside Convivial Circle because they noticed they had read similar books and wanted to have the same trajectory and the same conversations about particular ideas. Their friendship didn't form because of an attraction between people, so much as they recognized the opportunity to have particular conversations. Sometimes friendships aren't local, and that's okay too. The great thing about the internet is that it allows us to have conversations about ideas that perhaps people in your local area aren't interested in. Convivial Circle, Scully Sisters Sistership Community, or many others provide the club-like atmosphere where then you are thrown in with other women on a similar mission with similar values, having similar conversations. And that might just be where the ideas spark and you make unlikely connections and form friendships that propel you forward in your sanctification journey. If you want to try out Convivial Circle as a place to find friends and talk shop with other women, then go to convivialcircle.com and use the discount code FRIENDS to get a 3-week free trial of Convivial Circle. And you can come see how it works. That's convivialcircle.com and use the discount code FRIENDS for a 3-week free trial. Together, we help one another to repent, rejoice, repeat.